Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. We're going to be taking my boy DOKKANFEST Majin Vegeta in to ESBR. We are in the Majin Buu only, the Majin Buu Saga only ESBR. We are indeed running a full 200% category lead team. The only unit, this first rotation just kind of is not it. This first rotation just ain't it whatsoever, so I'm actually going to usher. But yeah, the only unit to not be under the 200% lead is indeed Ultimate Gohan, but he's just here to be purely a tank anyway. So yeah, everyone else is under the 200% lead, you know, Gifted Warriors and Majin Buu Saga. The only one who isn't, who's on a 170, is Ultimate Gohan, but that is fine. We've also got the Trunks on the team as well, so we will be getting that 30% damage reduction from Trunks being on the team, which I really do like that damage reduction. I mean, I think everyone does, because if you do get that damage reduction on top of picking up 6 or more key spheres, you have 50% damage reduction on top of the attack and defense plus 180 he already gets. As I said before, we've seen Easy A Future Gohan with 58% damage reduction and no defense, or next to no defense, and he tanks everything like amazingly. So having the defense as well makes this MV incredibly untouchable and makes him a very good contender, or a very good unit to slip into that slot 1 spot. If we then get like attacked on basic attacks after super attacking, where you get an additional attack and defense plus 50%, and if you are getting 6 or more key spheres, which means you've obviously picked up 3, which means you get an additional defense plus 50% as well, with 3 or more key spheres obtained, the basic attacks are always going to do double digits as it is anyway. So I mean, obviously with all of that after supering, they'll also do double digits. But if you got a super attacked with all that damage reduction and after supering himself, this MV is untouchable. He is untouchable. Now in terms of the rotation, I've said this, I shouldn't actually be... Okay, we can actually get 6 or more key... We can get 6 key spheres, which means we got the full damage reduction, which means my boy is ready for slot 1. But as I've said kind of numerous of times, this rotation between the new DOKKANFEST Majin Vegeta and the transforming tech one is a rotation you shouldn't really be using as like a main rotation. I mean, you can bring both of them on one team. Granted, yes, you can easily. But you really shouldn't be running these two as a rotation, just because, yes, they link well together, which is great. On paper, it's a great rotation, especially once the Tech MV has transformed. By the way, double digits with type disadvantage, by the way. Well, obviously, that's because he has a 58%, no, that's Gohan. 50% damage reduction, and also the extra attack and defense from supering. But yeah, on paper, this rotation is amazing, especially once that Tech Majin Vegeta is transformed into Majin Vegeta, you know, specifically. But as I said before, they are both key hungry, or they're both very orb hungry when it comes to their passive, which means some rotations or some turns, depending on how key placement is, you know, RNG wise for key placement, you know, you're gonna have to prioritize who gets the orbs to get their passive off. One thing with MV, if you do bring a Trunks on your team, which kind of gives him a little bit of edge, and sometimes you may not have the problem of who to give the key to and who to prioritize, or the orbs to, is the fact that obviously DOKKANFEST MV, if you do have Trunks on the team, immediately has 30% damage reduction. Yes, getting the extra 20% from the 6 or more key spheres is handy, but at least you kind of, as I said, have that safety net of immediately having 30% damage reduction, so it's not, you know, completely needed, if you will. But as I said, on paper, great rotation, links very well together, but it's really not a rotation you want to be running frequently, or really be running at all in harder events, because then missing out or having to prioritize one of them getting the orbs over one of them is a huge detriment on the other. But unfortunately, as I said, fortunately with MV, if you do bring a Trunks with you, the detriment is a little less impactful because he immediately has 30% damage reduction. Obviously, he won't be having as much damage reduction, which means you're missing out on quite a lot. But there's kind of that small safety net. Very small, thin safety net, might I add. But again, we're kind of winning with orbs. But to be fair, we are below 88% HP. So, not 8, yeah, 88% HP. I forgot it's they're both attack and HP conditions. Oh, yeah, why am I struggling to say that? 88%. There we go. So yeah, not only are we getting the attack plus 88% as well on super attack, or just additionally get an attack plus 88%, you know, which is why we're on 343k attack stat. Also, he's an orb changer. So again, kind of ideally, if you were to run these two together, at least this guy will change random key spheres, but then that could also be a detriment to this guy because he could change tech key spheres and mess up the orbs that you're going to feed into him. But at the same time, like here, for example, I take all these ink key spheres, I've got my 88% additional attack. I've also got, you know, all these key spheres for MV to get the 20% damage reduction for 6 or more key spheres. I've also regenerated a lot of health. And I've actually got super attacked the wrong person, quite annoyingly. But I've also got all these orbs sitting here waiting for this MV, but of course that's very RNG related. So it's probably not as bad as I originally first thought, but it's still kind of a major issue anyway, or kind of a flaw of running them two together. I said on paper it's a fantastic rotation because they link so well together. Not to mention I really do like that transforming SSJ2 Vegeta that transforms into Majin Vegeta, because having him rainbowed level 10 link on a 200% lead, I mean, I've literally done a video around it. He's really good. He is really good. Offensively and defensively, he is fantastic. You know, as I said, rainbowed level 10 links, and especially on the 200% lead. Like I said, with both of them being orb hungry, probably more often than not, you know, this is probably like the few percentage chance that, you know, one of them isn't going to have like a huge detriment on the other getting more orbs, or, you know, having to prioritize one of them. But more often than not, you're going to find it, and especially when it comes to RNG of orb placement, that one of them will lose out. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is. One of them will lose out. I'm tempted to put you there just to get a load of orbs, but I'm not going to do that because that's kind of silly. The only annoying thing about this Goten and Trunks, I mean, as I said, they really do work really well together, especially if you are going to be running a 200% lead with Gifted Warriors on Majin Buu Saga, because you kind of need... Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Okay, good. You know, especially if you are going to be running Majin Buu Saga Gifted Warriors, because of course Goten isn't on Vegeta's family. To be fair, you can kind of cross-run them, you know, with him leading both. You know, while having, you know, that Trunks needs the Goten and the Goten needs the Trunks. The only annoying thing is the damage reduction. I'm pretty sure the extra damage reduction doesn't kick in until after they super attacked. So neither of them suit a slot 1. Neither of them suit a slot 1, but a unit like that doesn't have an easy A taking 60k on the basic, to me isn't that bad. But I'm pretty sure the damage reduction or extra damage reduction they do get, so I can't remember what it is specifically, doesn't kick in until what they super attack. So yeah, having them on rotation is great, and they're a really good rotation to run. But as I said, it doesn't kick in until they super, so neither of them suit slot 1. It's a little bit annoying. So it can be risky, but once they super attack, they're both pretty good. They are both pretty good. But I mean, we are kind of, as I said, kind of running this Vegeta at his very best, at his pinnacle. You know, the very best that no one ever was. To catch him as my test trainer was my cause. You know, so if you wanted in another video, I could. See, this is where orb placement comes in. Like right now, and this is also where over in a flash for this MV is very. It seems to be a very crucial link. Because we have every link active. Without over and a flash active right now, I just barely get a super attack off. But this is where orb placement's going to kick in, where, you know, with them both being orb hungry, you're a bit like, do I give it to him? Do I not? If I'm using MV in slot 1 right there with all his attacks, he's going to need the full damage reduction. So that's where you probably shouldn't be running it. I don't want to use an item here, but I am going to. So I am going to use a snake right now. I kind of wait to see how Vegeta was going to tank all of that by himself. But I said I am going to be sensible for the remainder of the rotation and actually give an item, which we've already done. Luckily enough, again, when it comes to orb placement, we've actually been fairly lucky. So right now, orb placement for us isn't going too bad. It's not going too bad right now. Which I'm here for. I'm here for. But of course, with the 30% damage reduction on top of getting 6 or more key spheres and all the defense he'll eventually get after supering, I mean, he actually gets 50% damage, extra 50% defense from 3 or more key spheres. So he actually has like 230% defense, you know, before he even super attacks on top of 50% damage reduction. It does make him a, not perfect, but a very good unit to run in slot 1, which not a lot of units, unless they have, you know, ridiculous damage reduction, guard, potentially dodge, you know, not many units can do in the game unless they have one of them 3 things, which of course he does have damage reduction, but you know, part of his damage reduction is depending on picking up 6 or more key spheres. But one consensus I have seen on Twitter, which, I mean, usually the minority is always the most vocal, which I'm not gonna lie, never completely made sense to me. I mean, it does, but at the same time, it's like, well, you know, usually if there's more, the majority kind of outweigh the minority, but typically this is just the way Twitter works. The minority are always the loudest, and that is the case here as well. And that is with MV. I mean, to be fair, a lot of units pick up slack and slander anyway. Like, it's just the way it is with these games. Which, I mean, I've never really paid attention to. I don't really care. You know, I like my boy. It's a Majin Vegeta unit. I'm a fan immediately anyway. He's also very good. But the consensus I've seen, which I really do not agree with, and this isn't biased, this just, I just don't think it's true, is that without the 30% damage reduction from Trunks, we should be good here because we super attacked and we have a Whis active. That's what I mean. The damage reduction after supering is so good, but it's only after you super, which means before that you're open to damage. But yeah, the general consensus is without that 30% damage reduction from Trunks, that Vegeta is mid. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's not correct. And to be fair, that's with a lot of Twitter statements where it's like, you're kind of missing context. So, you know, depending on the rotations you're running him on, you know, depending on the categories, because again, if you're going for the full 200% lead right now, you're very limited, because, you know, you're literally just limited to Gifted Warriors, Majin Buu Saga, or Gifted Warriors, Vegeta's Family, even though you're actually not restricted to run that. You can run, obviously, even if you do have MV, I know obviously the main thing is 200% lead, run him on 200% lead team. Obviously, I get that. Oh, the active, I can't wait. So bearing in mind, Piccolo is below half health, Gotenks is just before, and Gohan is a little bit more than Gotenks. We're about to see my boy, okay, AoE all 3 of them with crit and guaranteed stun. And guaranteed stun. Now, I know I'm not playing it, which seems really uncultured of me, but all my settings are off, my phone's on silent. We've seen it before, it's okay. But the consensus, right, of him being mid without the 30% damage reduction, like I said, I kind of get where you're coming from. But it's just not true. Oh, I love these animations, man. They are so good. Big 2.3 milli crit, stunned. 2.2 milli crit, stunned. 2.2 milli crit, stunned. Almost dead. And what do we cost? What do we sacrifice for that? 18% HP. And do you know what's funny? Do you know what's really funny? The 18% HP on an active can actually help you get down to the 88% HP or less to get the additional attack plus 88% and changing orbs. And the changing of the orbs to ink key spheres for himself. Depending on, of course, where your orbs are like where your health, sorry, is sitting. But look at that. He done 2.2 milli crits consistently and stunned everyone. This is what I mean. This guy is a super battle road monster. Having that type of active skill in Super Battle Road is huge. Doing that much damage to everyone because you have a guaranteed crit and stunning them as well basically gives you a free turn for the remainder of the turn. It's actually amazing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's basically Super Vegeta with a Ghost Usher attached, which is insane because obviously his guaranteed crits are ridiculous. But yeah, the consensus around not having that 30% damage reduction is kind of just, as I said, not true, because defensively he's still very good without it. Unfortunately, there's a slight asterisk, which is if you don't get 6 or more key spheres, he doesn't get any damage reduction. You know, but if you constantly have him at 88% HP or less, which is really not difficult to get off, the majority of this battle, we have been at 88% HP or less. Like I said, it's kind of really not difficult to have that or be at that. Are we gonna get the Dokkan attack? I think I'm gonna get the Dokkan attack. Damn, that is so wasted. So wasted. I mean, to be fair, it's not wasted now. That's why I didn't use an item, because at least it wouldn't really be wasted in terms of damage, in terms of, you know, having one enemy left with next to no health. Wasted. In terms of the HP regeneration, I mean, cool, I would take it, but so annoying. But yeah, you know, yes, there's a small asterisk, which is, as I said, if you don't get 6 or more key spheres, He has no damage reduction whatsoever if you don't have a Trunks on your team, which I get that, but that is kind of also comes into the context of it depends what category you take. If you're taking a Vegeta unit without a Trunks unit, that's kind of on you. Because yes, as I said, there's this kind of thing around global getting a 200% lead. You're like, 200% lead, you know, it's the new meta. I've got to take that. I mean, obviously. But obviously with us only having one right now for the next 4 months, it's only obviously restricted to Majin Buu Saga Gifted Warriors and Vegeta's Family Gifted Warriors. But don't forget, you can still run other units that don't fall under the Gifted Warriors category that give 200%. Yes, as I said, there's a slight thing next to it where we were like, well, 200%, I want to run the full 200%. But you don't need to run a full 200% lead. To have the full, you know, to have the 30% damage reduction on a full 200% lead team, yes, you're going to need a Kid Trunks. And those units, granted, are not the very best. I actually forgot that Vegeta was the final enemy by himself here. Obviously, he's going to have a chunky health bar. But I'll take all those key spheres. And we've got type advantage for the remainder of the units on the rotation. This is where I'm telling you, this is where RNG for orbs end in your favor, with both of them being orb hungry. One of them will lose out. One of them will lose out. So do I use an Icarus? I'll use an Icarus. I'll use an Icarus just to be safe. So yeah, you know, as I said, you're not restricted to just, you can run other units that don't fall under 200% lead on his category as well. As I said, I get there's that small thing where it's like, well, but I want to run a full 200% lead team, but it's not the be-all and end-all. You can have the majority of the team under a 200% lead and then have like a unit or two that isn't. It will still work very well, especially if the unit is very good. So like, for example, I don't get this, you know, without the 30% damage reduction, Vegeta is mid, because it's just not true. Because if you are getting the 6 or more key spheres, and then, you know, for example, if you don't have the 30% damage reduction, you're less likely to be putting him in slot 1. You know, without having the full 50% damage reduction, you're less likely to get in slot 1. And then that's where I think context is important. Because this Vegeta, with all his damage reduction, if you do get 6 or more key spheres, you do bring the Trunks, he is perfect. Almost, actually not perfect. He's almost perfect, but he is an amazing option to go in slot 1. He can handle slot 1 where not a lot of units in the game can. Yes, he's not actually perfectly built for slot 1, but he's a much better option than other units in the game to be in slot 1, and I think that's where the consensus around him comes from. But don't forget, he's not ideally built for slot 1. It's solely reliant on if you get 6 or more key spheres, and also have the extra 30% damage reduction as well. If you're not taking a team where you can get the 30% damage reduction and you also don't get the extra 20% damage reduction or 6 or more key spheres, then don't put him in slot 1. If you do, that's kind of, that's your bad. That's your fault. You know, the best where he's going to be like the best for defensively is obviously slot 2. Especially if you do not have, you know, either of the damage reductions. If you don't get the 30% because you don't have a Trunks, but you do get the 20%, slot 2. If it's vice versa and you do have the Trunks but you don't get the 6 or more key spheres, slot 2. Because once he super attacks, he has attack and defense plus 180, attack and defense plus 50%, and defense plus 50% with 3 or more key spheres obtained, and the damage reduction from either the Trunks or the 6 or more key spheres obtained. And if you have both sets of damage reduction and then he super attacks, he's untouchable. If he gets supered, untouchable. He'll be taking no damage. 50% damage reduction with all that defense. Wall. Absolute wall. Do you know what? I actually healed, but I think a Ghost Usher would have been best here because these two aren't safe to be running here. So I think I'm. Yeah, I should have ushered instead of healed on this turn. I'm not gonna lie. That is a mistake from me. But it's okay. It's okay. So yeah, I mean, he's not ideally built for slot 1, which is, as I said, I kind of think where this consensus of him being mid without the 30% damage reduction from Trunks comes from. But he's not ideally built for slot 1. If you're getting both sets of damage reduction, then yes, he can go in slot 1. And do I even need to use it now? I'm going to use it now regardless, just because it's so good. And that's just you. That's on you. That depends where you put him in your rotation. If you're running him on main rotation, that depends what slot you put him in, depending on how many attacks are coming from where, if you have tight disadvantage, and if you have both sets of damage reduction. That's just a granted. But to say without it he's mid just isn't true. Because even without the 30% damage reduction, if you get the 6 or more key spheres and then super attack, defensively he is still very, very good in slot 2. He may take quite a bit more damage, obviously, but he won't get you killed. So yeah, I don't know where this is coming from. I said I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's a bit like, you know, it's not completely, you know, you're not wrong, but at the same, no. In terms of the mid, you are wrong. But, you know, him not being as good with his full damage reduction and, you know, everything else on his passive kind of working simultaneously, all ticked off, if you will. Obviously, he isn't going to be as good with all of his passive off. I mean, that's with any unit in the game. But to say he's mid without it just kind of isn't true. And as I said, you're not restricted to just running Kid Trunks in a 200% lead. I get that you'd want to run a full 200% lead, but you can still run a majority 200% lead team and a few units on 170. So you can still run your 200% lead team, you know, Vegeta's Family Gifted Warriors with the units you want. And then you can have like two Trunkses on a 170 or a Trunks on a 170. If you have the DOKKANFEST Trunks that literally just come out a month ago, he can be on 170 and he'll still be very, very good and give you the 30% damage reduction, and you'll have a very good unit on the team anyway. Unfortunately, he's not on 200%, but he will still be great. The Easy A Tech SSJ Trunks that come out with the future Gohan, or near the future Gohan, won't be on a full 200%, but we've seen him already. An amazing Easy A. He will still perform very, very well, and guess what? He'll give MV his 30% damage reduction. So as I said, I get the whole, you know, you want to be, we're actually one key sphere off, which is very heartbreaking. So I'm actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have to, do I use an item? No, I'm going to see what my boy can do. I'm going to see what my boy can do. So yeah, as I said, I kind of get it. You know, there's a 200% lead. You want a full 200% lead. You want to run a full 200%. Oh, big 5 dodge coming up, clutch. You want to run a full 200% lead category team. By the way, 15k on a basic without full damage reduction, not too bad. Bearing in mind, he hasn't even super attacks yet, so he didn't even get all his extra defense. So 15k with literally just 180% defense, you know, technically 230 because of the 3 or more key spheres, and 30% damage reduction, not bad in the SBR. And then as you saw after he super attacked, he took double digits on basics. And that is without his full 50% damage reduction. As I said, he's not perfectly or ideally built to go in slot 1 because the 6 or more key spheres is kind of slightly RNG based, whether you get the extra damage reduction or not on top of the 30%. He gets all of his defense after he super attacks, which again is just proving my point of he's not mid without it. He's just not built perfectly for a slot 1 unit, but he is better to be a slot 1 unit than a lot of other units in the game. So I said, I kind of get where you're coming from, but it's just factually not correct. And that's just the way it is. And that is no bias. Like, that is just no bias. I don't need to pop an item for YouTube, but I need to pop an item for Goten, so I'm going to use a Whis. But obviously, with 6 or more keys, we know that the boy MV in slot 1 there, I mean, he's been doing it since we've got into this final phase, has been taking double digits on every single attack he takes with full damage reduction, and then especially once he super attacks. But yeah, the whole mid 30% damage reduction, yeah, or without it, yeah, it's just not true. It's just not true. It's just not true. Defensively, he is very good. This video is already above 20 minutes, which is why showing him with and without is like, it would essentially be too long. It would be 2 videos in one, which I don't really want to do. But there's MV and ESBR. Defensively amazing. Again, especially if you do have the 30% damage reduction from Trunks. And again, you're not restricted. Yes, I get you would run a full you want to run a full 200% lead team, because that's the new thing on Global. But you can still run other units on the Vegeta's Family or Majin Buu Saga respectively when it comes to Trunks units that don't fall under Gifted Warriors as well. As I said, you've got the DOKKANFEST Trunks on the Vegeta Family team, won't be on the 200% lead, but it's still a very good option. Will also give MV his 30% damage reduction. You've got the Easy A SSJ Tech one. If you're going for a longer event, you've also got the transforming SSJ Trunks that stacks defense. Again, won't be on a full 200% lead, but he will still do very, very well on a 170 and give you the 30% damage reduction. So yeah. Just yeah, okay? Very good in Super Battle Road, That active skill is huge. Doing a crit on an AoE, like that amount of damage on everyone, is fantastic. And stunning them basically gives you a go. It's basically Super Vegeta with a Ghost Usher, which is insane. Even without the 30% damage reduction, I mean, we saw it even without the 20% damage reduction at some points when I couldn't get 6 or more key spheres, and that was running a rotation where 2 units are key hungry or orb hungry. He still tanked very well. He can still tank very well in slot 2 without both sets of damage reduction. Just having one and then super attacking, he's still going to tank very well. He will take a bit more damage, obviously, but he won't get you killed and he will still tank quite well. The super attacks will still hurt a little. Just remember that. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll see you next video, guys, and peace.